I think the jingle was like $5
Yep.
$5 foot long.
That was it.
Just unlocked a core memory.
Welcome to Millennial, the home of pretend adulting and real talk. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
We've been starting recent episodes with listener feedback, and I wanted to share an update on last week's listener feedback. We had received a negative review of the program, and the title had the abbreviation TDS, and we didn't know what that meant. It turns out it is something I've been aware of. I just haven't seen it abbreviated as TDS. Jeff wrote in with the following: Hey, Millennial, I was checking out the latest episode and wanted to follow up on that listener who had TDS as the review title. Even though they said they don't like Trump, TDS stands for Trump Derangement Syndrome, a term that Trump supporters use against those of us who don't like Trump as a way to insult us.
Cool.
We should have known. We do have Trump. We do have TDS.
I guess. I wouldn't describe myself as deranged over it.
By the way, I was looking through our YouTube comments today, trying to find some other constructive criticism that we can include on the show or any feedback. All the comments we get on YouTube are MAGA Republicans just shitting on us.
Haters. I love it. Bring it
Thanks
on.
for boosting the show.
Yeah, your engagement fuels us. So please keep it coming. My favorite comment. We were, God, I think it was on a short that Chloe grabbed for us. And it was when we were talking about what questions we would ask the new White House press secretary. And I asked about, when's he going to repeal the 25th Amendment? Someone responded to that and was like, President Trump is just over here trying to throw y'all a bone, and all you're doing is coming at him with these baseless accusations. And I'm like, he said he wants to run for a third term.
Yeah.
He would need to get rid of number 25. Or not 25, 22. 25 is another one he wants to get rid of, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, I'm just trying to help you guys understand what that's going to take if you want your guy to stay. So.
Oh, yeah. We're doing y'all a favor. So also, many of you have probably seen stories over the last couple of weeks about national park employees being laid off as part of the broader federal layoffs. And we're going to touch on Trump's first 100 days with our TDS in a couple of minutes. But the following email came in via our confessional earlier this month, and we've been wanting to read it. Thought it'd be appropriate this week with the national parks in the news. This person wrote in, "This is probably different than what you expect to get in here. I know you all are a friend of national parks and have talked about your travels to them. I think this is something you need to know. I am closely connected to the national parks and have been for a while, and I have never seen something like this. There is a hiring freeze in the federal government that has stopped all hiring in the national park system, even jobs that should be exempt, like seasonal employees, EMTs, and firefighters. Without these positions, the parks will be permanently changed this summer. Think trash everywhere, no visitor centers, bathrooms overflowing, no search and rescue personnel, etc. Many parks are extremely busy in the summer and have difficulty keeping up with visitor services with a full staff. Imagine parks like that having nearly no staff. It seems that people are unaware that this is happening or unaware of the potential impact, and without the outcry of the public, I fear for the future of our parks. I care a lot about our public lands and know others do as well. I hope that if enough people start to speak out, we can stop this before it's too late." So like I said, this email did come in a few weeks ago before the national parks started getting attention in the media, but this person is spot on in terms of what's been happening, as we've all seen with the reporting recently, and it's really sad. We also wanted to highlight, and I hope some of you saw this, it's an amazing photo. There were these protesters that displayed the American flag upside down in Yosemite a few days ago, and they put it over the side of El Capitan, one of the most iconic sites in the park. And I saw some pictures of this flag upside down at sunset with a waterfall in the foreground, and the waterfall was glowing because it's the time of year where the sun is hitting this waterfall just right at sunset and sunrise, or just at sunrise. I can't remember which it is. Really epic photo. And as this person said via email, they know we're friends of the national parks, and this moved me a lot. Pam, you caught this too, right?
Yeah. We had actually been talking about like the imagery of the upside down American flag, and what that represents not long ago on this show as part of something else.
I think it was an After Dark.
It might have been after. Well, it's good for those people that join us over there. For those of you that don't, Andrew explained that it means that the country's in distress, and obviously national parks are in distress right now because we already saw what happened last time Trump was in office when they did cut funding from the parks. People just unfortunately don't know how to behave. There's a lot of more litter on the ground. There's nobody to take care of these places that we treasure. And it's really unfortunate. So, it's like a perfect way kind of to protest when, these places that you love are in danger.
Back during Trump's first term, a similar thing happened where funding got cut for the national parks, and volunteer efforts started being organized within the national park. So I would be very curious to see if something like that happens again, especially as we approach summer. I'm 2 hours from Death Valley. I'm not going there during summer, but I'm also 2 hours from Zion. I would be interested in volunteering, maybe for a day or a weekend if opportunities arose. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on that. Because it would be nice to help out.
National park, 2 hours?
2 hours, Zion, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are state parks a lot closer and other federal lands a lot closer. So maybe there will be opportunities there. I'm not sure. Yeah. We'll just have to wait and see. And I hope it doesn't come to that. I want these parks to be well staffed. But if push comes to shove, it would be nice to be part of a little resistance effort or a helpful effort like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for that email. And we have a bunch of emails, y'all, that we should, maybe we need to organize a listener feedback episode in the weeks ahead because we got some good stuff we should
We definitely
read.
Do.
Yeah, and keep it coming, listeners. We really appreciate it. Laura, what else is happening in the first 100 days?
Yeah, well, just in case anyone's counting, we are at day 37 as of the date of this recording, day 38 if you're listening to this when it's released. And I actually wanted to touch on Germany. It might sound kind of weird to say, hey, I want to talk about the German elections while we're talking about Trump's first 100 days, but there's definitely a connection there. So y'all might recall Elon meddling in the German election by shilling for the far right party. Well, Germany had its elections on Sunday, and the good news is the far right party didn't win. The center right party did, which is an improvement, but the far right party did make significant gains and come in second. So they've definitely built some momentum, which is not good. Currently, the center right party leader says that talks with the far right party about forming a coalition are absolutely off the table. This would be like the equivalent if the United States had multiple parties, not just two. It would be like if we had a MAGA party and then we had a Republican party that was staffed with old school conservatives that really don't exist anymore. But just imagine if that's what we had. It would be like that Republican Party rejecting to form a coalition with the MAGA party. So it is a big deal. It also seems like the next chancellor of Germany is trying to distance himself from the US by suggesting that Europe should seek independence from us, given the current instability. And he even called US interference in German elections as outrageous as Moscow's election interference that we've all talked about for years. So it definitely seems like even though Germany is still kind of in this center-right space, seems like there's an attempt in this moment to reject the brand of like nationalism and fascism that has grown so popular in the West with figures like Trump.
It's refreshing.
And so actually, this was kind of breaking news right before we were starting the show, like an hour before the show. Trump was delivered 3 court losses. And I was like, they timed this perfectly for our show recording. So federal judges basically smacked the Trump administration down and said, they can't freeze federal grants or loans ordering them to pay foreign aid related money to government contractors and nonprofits for work that had already been completed before USA aid started getting called into question and having their workers laid off and everything like that, as well as saying that the administration forming their own refugee acceptance policy is effectively nullifying Congress, so they can't do that either. Basically saying they can't suspend the arrival of refugees. So this is all great news, but my question is, will it matter? Like, this administration's not listening to the courts. One of these orders is actually a secondary order to the administration to pay for services already rendered by these contractors and nonprofits. And the administration just ignored them the first time. So it was like they issued a strongly worded second ruling.
Hey, we were serious.
Yeah, like, are they going to do it?
Yeah.
Can they make them?
I don't know, but it does feel like the courts are our last hope for so much of the federal government and democracy right now. It just every day we're getting new news stories about the courts stopped this, the courts accepted that. It's just like they're just our last hope. Thank you, judicial branch. Couple other things I wanted to touch on. I could not believe this. The New York Times is reporting that Trump is really fed up with the current Air Force One planes, and he wants to rush Boeing into completing the new planes that are already in the works. And he is tasking Elon Musk with getting Boeing to move faster. Boeing, who has had tons of production issues, as we all know, over the last few years, is now expected to rush his plane. And Elon's supposed to be handling this? I truly do not understand this at all. Trump wants Elon to prod Boeing to move faster, including relaxing security clearance standards for some who work on the presidential planes.
For his own plane?
For his own presidential plane. Yeah. Does he have a death wish? I don't know why he would want Boeing to rush a plane. Has he heard what's going on with Boeing?
I was going to say, wasn't Boeing like falling apart at the seams literally?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Has he heard of the MAX 8 and MAX 9? Yes.
Oh,
and
man.
the doors falling off mid-flight.
Also, let's not forget to mention that Boeing gets to regulate itself, which is already a problem. So now you want to rush them to go even faster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brock in the Discord is saying, for his plane, I'm fine with it. For my planes, please no.
And he's on a plane right now. Wow. I don't know if a listener's ever tuned in live for Millennial from a plane.
That's exciting.
Thanks, Brock. Yeah, that's dedication.
Commitment.
But look, I just fear this plane is going to be rushed and be ready for the next president. I want Trump to be able to enjoy this new plane that he is rushing into operation.
I think he wants to enjoy it too, for whatever reason.
I just got to ask, what's wrong with the old plane?
I know.
Like,
that's what I want to know too.
Why do taxpayer dollars got to pay for this? Air
Force One is very old. They use two heavily modified Boeing 747s. They are more than 30 years old and require extensive servicing. And of course, we know Trump. He likes new. He likes sleek. He likes clean. He likes gold.
Oh,
so
God.
It's
They're going to
probably
make Air Force One gold plated, aren't they?
Gold plated urinal.
Look, if McDonald's ain't going to do us all a favor, I think we need Boeing to step in and get it done. Get what done? You decide yourself. Just don't fly over my house, please. Well, speaking of something hurtling towards Earth, last week I told everybody about an asteroid that had the highest chance ever of hitting Earth. We thought we'd all be released from this Earth in 2032. That's when the asteroid was expected to hit. Bad news, everybody. NASA is now giving Earth the all clear. There's now 0 chance this asteroid is going to hit our planet. Better luck next asteroid.
I had pretty much made my life plan for between now and 2032.
I know.
And now I got to do more.
I've been eating like shit the last week. I'm like, well, I only got 7 more years to go.
Can't take it with you.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, that was fun while it lasted. Well, what else is going on, Laura?
Well, I know you alluded to some of the mass layoffs of federal workers. I wanted to talk about the weird mixed messaging that federal employees got over the weekend. So the Office of Personnel Management sent a mass email to federal employees asking them to respond, explaining what they did the week prior in 5 bullet points. What kind of corporate BS is this?
This is like performance level review, status level shit.
Tell us what you did. We don't know what you did, so you tell us what you did. Like, what?
Yeah.
I hope these people made themselves sound extremely valuable and like irreplaceable, basically.
So Elon, after this email went out, took to Twitter to add that if workers didn't respond by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, there would be consequences. And he said, quote, failure to respond will be taken as resignation. Mind you, these are millions of people. You're talking all federal employees who got this email. It's insane, to the point where heads of the FBI, the Defense Department, Department of Homeland Security, State Department, Justice Department, Intelligence, Health and Human Services all told their employees not to respond to the email, because a lot of these agencies deal in very sensitive work that can't be communicated in this way. You have a lot of people who are working on sensitive assignments that they can't talk about to even peers in their department.
And these heads are people who Trump himself just appointed, right?
Yes, that's the other thing. I mean, the fact that we're relying on people like Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel to be smart enough to go, yeah, maybe like the FBI and intelligence shouldn't be disclosing all of their shit over email. They also sent an email out to employees. I think it was in Health and Human Services, but I'll need to double check. They sent an email out stating that you could respond if you wanted to, but to keep the following things in mind. And the final bullet point was that your communication might be read by a foreign actor.
Jeez.
So we have literal departments in our government being like, we're vulnerable to foreign hackers. So just keep that in mind when you decide if you're going to answer this email.
Yeah. It's also demoralizing to receive an email like this saying, hey, tell us what you do, because A, we don't know ourselves what you do, and B, prove what you do and what you accomplished,
it's also like,
and why you're so important.
We don't care to find out on our own. I'm sure they could go down a list of the employees and their titles and read up on what that means, but they just don't care to do that. So they want someone to do the work for them.
We all might remember that Elon took this kind of strategy when he came into Twitter. When he took over Twitter, he emailed all Twitter employees and said, tell me what you do and justify your existence at this company. I feel for the employees who are worried that their jobs are on the line or had to spend their weekend coming up with a list. You got to be careful about what you say too, right? I mean, your job is on the line. So you have to spend your weekend giving a list of 5 items that you accomplished. And you're sitting there worried that if you answer incorrectly, you're going to be out.
Yep. And Elon said on Monday, those who do not take this email seriously will soon be furthering their career elsewhere after like 24 hours of churn in the press of people talking about how ridiculous this was. But then Trump followed up on that by saying that responding was, quote, somewhat voluntary, but it could still result in firing.
His lawyers tell him to use that phrase.
Like,
yeah.
Maybe we will, maybe we won't.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of this is that the internet did what the internet does best and flooded the email address hr@opm.gov with junk mail and spam and porn and, anything else you can think of.
I need to send an email myself. I haven't done that yet.
So I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do, but I think if you want to have maximum impact in this kind of scenario, you don't send one-off emails from your own address. You sign them up for something.
Ooh, like, a bad mailing list, an annoying mailing list.
Or like a mortgage lender to qualify. Like, you never hear the end of it from those companies once you sign up once.
Yeah.
So yeah, things like that can be helpful.
I'm looking for a gay porn site that has a mailing list. I'll sign them up for that. I feel
was
bad
that one
for
that was like trying to
like
deter you from watching porn and touching yourself?
Oh yeah, that Mike Johnson signed up for with his son.
Yes.
Christian something.
Christian Eyes or something like that. Or
Christian Eyes. Yeah, I'd signed up for it. I don't know if you guys remember that.
I do. You set me as your celibacy buddy or something.
Yeah, Laura had access to like all of my internet history, and if she saw any porn sites, she would be notified. And then she would have to call me up and be like, "Andrew, the devil's gotten to you, hasn't he?" I'd be like, yes, I had to jerk off. I couldn't hold it in anymore.
No, I would direct call Jesus. I have an in with him, and I'll be like, "You'll never believe what Andrew's been up to."
Yeah. So again, I feel for the employees. I know somebody who's a federal employee and he's very stressed about this, and I feel for him. It's not fair that they have to deal with this and deal with just generally all this uncertainty right now. I mean, this email thing aside, who knows what everybody's careers hold at the federal level.
Yeah, well,
it's crazy because that used like getting a job like in the government, even if it's not like actually doing any sort of like governing, has always felt like it's come with job security,
Yeah.
Like even when I was working at the library in college, people would say like, "Oh, you got a county job," like that's like, that has extra protection because you're working for the government, which seems kind of crazy to think that the library is a government funded job, but it is, and and so like there was a time when that meant something and when people felt like they would be secure. And so it's crazy now that all of these people are really scared about being unemployed because of, two deranged men. They might decide to pull the plug whenever they feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, God knows the untold horrors that people are going to experience at the citizen level as a result of many of these critical services and government positions being eliminated.
Yeah.
Well,
or even the simple acts of one of us emailing a government department, let's say from the FTC. We have a problem with our cable company. We're complaining to the FTC about that. Are we going to hear back from them now? I actually did that recently. I complained to the FTC or FCC about my cable company, and I heard back pretty promptly. How long is that going to last for? What if I go and try to get a national park pass? Am I going to be able to do that? Can I do that online?
I was just going to say too, like, God forbid anybody listening or any of us become unemployed and need to seek unemployment services, because it's already hellish trying to get in to speak to somebody to help you start the process for that, let alone what that would be like if they further cut, employees from that sector of the government.
Yeah.
I know somebody who has been struggling to get unemployment help for about 2 months now. And somebody else who had gone through it finally said, "Oh, you just need to call your senator and they'll fast track you since you've been waiting 2 months." It's like, that's crazy that it like right now it's not impacted, but imagine if it was. And so then it falls onto your senator to, get you in line and speed things up just so that you can, apply for food stamps, for example. Or
right. And they're also trying to make cuts to programs like food stamps too.
Right,
so it's like making it harder to access, but also meaning there's not as much of it to go around for the people who need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is all for what? Trump and Elon claim it's going to save us $2 trillion when independent studies are telling a much different story in terms of the savings here. So, and the other thing that gets me is I thought we as Americans and conservatives are always about jobs, baby, jobs, unemployment, keep it low, get it lower. All these firings and Republicans celebrate this? I don't get it. It's like cool to fire people now at the federal level of all places.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, we do know that some congressional Republicans, some House Republicans in like the last week have been going home to their districts for town halls in ruby red districts, by the way, and getting eviscerated by their constituents who are like, yo, what the fuck?
And these are Trump voters showing up at these town halls and whatnot. It's
crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Well, like we've been saying, we hope you get what you asked for.
Yeah. Just wish that we didn't have to be along for the ride. But we did get an email from an impacted listener I wanted us to share before we move on. So this is someone who's speaking about their current experience with what's been going on over the last few days. Andrew, do you want to read this?
Sure. I am reaching out, but I have to do it silently. I am a provider at the VA. I love my job and I work really hard. However, we have now received multiple emails from the national level government to take a buyout. A list came out over a week later that I am exempt from this because I am essential. However, the email was threatening. Everyone is panicking. Now I've received an email that I need to justify what I do each week. What the fuck, really? Look at my patient load. I don't have time to add all this into my already filled day. I love my patients. They will not get the care they need outside the VA. We have been trained to specially handle veterans. I don't think people realize how different the veteran population is when it comes to healthcare. At an outside facility, a lot of these guys would just go untreated or misdiagnosed. This whole thing makes me so angry. A medical setting like the VA should not be treated like corporate America. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't put it better myself. Yeah. Thank you so much. And really, we want to continue to encourage y'all. Hey, if you work in the government and you want to speak out about anything you're seeing, please write into us. Again, you can write in directly. We'll keep you anonymous, but you can also use our confessional over at millennialshow.com. And that way you can submit truly anonymously if you're more comfortable with that. But we would love to continue to feature these on the show.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really touched that our listeners are writing in and also impressed that some of our listeners have government jobs. That's cool.
I know.
Yeah. And they're sitting there listening to us.
I know. We're sitting here picking our nose being like, McDonald's, get them. All right. Well, after the break, Pam and I have 2 PSAs for our listeners about books and eating out. We'll be right back and continue with today's episode.
So this week I wanted to talk about Amazon and specifically Kindle. Do either of you have Kindle? I have a Kindle. I have an older Paperwhite. Okay. So you and I are in the same boat, kind of. Laura, you don't have an e-reader?
I don't. I want to get one, though.
It is nice.
It's nice, especially for traveling. I've traveled with a hardcover book in recent months, and the weight kills me sometimes in the book bag.
And it takes up so much space, too.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
And also just holding I love holding a physical book. Don't get me wrong. I'm reading a couple physical books right now, but sometimes it's really like, okay, I got to rest this on my stomach because this is really starting to hurt my wrists, my old wrists.
Well, if you are a Kindle user, then you might have noticed that especially if you're listening to this when this episode drops on Wednesday, February 26th, that Amazon has removed a very popular Kindle feature that previously allowed users to download purchased books to a computer. And you could also then copy them manually to Kindle via USB. So this was a feature for a very long time because Kindles didn't often come built in with Wi-Fi access. So you would need to use a USB cord to transfer your purchases over there. They've obviously since become more sophisticated. Most Kindle Paperwhites, I have a Paperwhite, for example. Mine's pretty old. I think it's from 2014 at this point, and it has Wi-Fi access. I bought it used. Most of them come with that now, and they make it pretty easy to even send purchases or PDFs if you have them on your computer through email as well. So a lot of people bypass the use of USB altogether, but some people really do enjoy this feature, specifically because it allows them to create backups of their ebook files onto their computers. And the reason that this story actually came onto my radar is because Book Talk has been doing a pretty good job over the course of the last few weeks, sounding the alarm about this and just letting people know, hey, if you use this feature at all, or if you've ever wanted to make backups of your ebooks onto your computer so that they live on there forever, you can transfer them to other e-readers. If you ever decide to jump ship from Kindle, then you better do it now if you want to do it this easy way. So that's kind of how I heard about this at first. And we thought it would be interesting to talk about this because it kind of coincides with, a couple of things that we've brought up recently about how we don't really own our digital libraries. And we also know that a lot of our listeners are big readers and use e-readers and stuff like that. So that was really the inspiration here. So according to The Verge, which actually really did a great job of breaking down why this feature is important to people, there are a couple of different reasons why people might want to have digital libraries, because it seems kind of silly, right? Like if you own your ebooks, if you bought them off of Amazon, you already have them on one device. Why would you want them on another? But there are a couple of reasons why. And namely, it's because there have been some cases in the past where Amazon has removed books from its online store, and then they subsequently will delete them off of the devices that are attached to that. And you might not even notice until you're looking for that title if you have a lot of books that it's suddenly disappeared and then you don't have access to re-download it again. Sometimes titles are also edited and Amazon will re-upload and replace copies to its e-readers without users even knowing that that's happened. So to this point, you might also notice that like if you own books, every once in a while the covers will change. It's because Amazon has access to do that. So if a book gets a revamp, for example, the next time you refresh your Kindle or re-download that book, if you've offloaded it, you might notice it has a different copy if you bought it off of the Kindle store on Amazon.
And people build
That's
connections
crazy.
to covers. It's like why we display books on our bookshelves. And I know this would be a digital bookshelf, but when something like that happens, I think it feels more like a PDF. It doesn't feel like it's yours. It's almost feels like a web page. You're just at the mercy of the author or the platform.
Yeah, exactly. And the last reason they pointed out why a lot of Kindle readers have been looking to back up the books that they have purchased is because some people worry that Amazon might remove ebooks that get banned. We've been hearing about banned books and how a lot of books are in danger, could potentially be in danger, especially under this administration. And so it's possible that if those books do get banned on any sort of like federal level or even state by state, that Kindle might decide to remove those books. Similarly, there have also been instances where books are updated because maybe the publisher doesn't agree with the language that was used in the original text. So Roald Dahl's books, for example, made headlines a couple of years ago because they decided that they were too problematic. And so they re-released them with a lot of that language removed and updated.
I remember us talking
it's
about
possible that, Kindle might say, well, like this person already owns Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Let's just update that copy. Even though they didn't buy the new and improved copy, they bought the original copy. Like they might take away the option from people to decide which copy they would want to keep. So,
yeah. And I'm just also thinking about how, talking about banned books, given how Bezos is now in the pocket of the Trump administration and big tech is clearly enjoying kissing the ring. We've seen Tim Cook do it. We've seen Sam Altman at ChatGPT do it. Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook do it. They're all sucking up to Trump. And if the Trump administration and MAGA Republicans, let's say, rally behind one book that they think really needs to be banned from libraries and bookstores, we can imagine it'd be a book about a trans child. This book cannot be in bookstores. You can see Trump going on Truth Social, calling out companies like Amazon, demanding they take it out of their directories, and they'll do it. Bezos will do it. Tim Cook might do it. All these other big tech guys might do it. So I really see it now, unfortunately, in the realm of possibility that far-right conservatives would get behind the idea of pushing companies to ban books, and they'll bend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think we've seen real-life examples of how some Republicans would very clearly like to push something like this. All I can think about anytime we talk about banning books is that footage of Senator Kennedy from Louisiana reading the gay sex scene in a novel. Yeah. And I can't, it's terrible. Can't get it out of my head. But I think displays like that really show that there is a hardline faction of people in this country who want to say that anything they personally deem to be obscene should go away. And I totally see your point here, Andrew. I think an easier way to put your finger on the scale in that regard is to influence big business.
Yeah.
Because the law
and
moves
we've
slow.
seen examples of them bending in the last month, and they'll continue. Look at the Gulf of America ordeal, Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, I will continue dead naming it, and calling it the Gulf of Mexico. But I wonder how this would manifest internationally, because, a company like Amazon, they're not just a company that does business in the United States. To what extent do we think this pressure would extend to what they can offer in the rest of the world?
That's a really good question. I think it would depend on how hard other countries push back, because I guess Amazon could argue, even if you look at like TikTok, for example, they could argue, well, we're a company based in this country. We abide by these countries' laws and rules, right? Which might be different from their laws and rules. But we've also seen instances where like European countries, for example, push back, and then slowly there's like a trickle down effect, like the whole like accepting cookies thing that we see now on websites. That's a result of EU policy change, right? So like the internet, it's like everybody has their own governing laws surrounding the internet, but because the European countries have decided to change how they notify customers, consumers, whatever you want to call them, about the information they could be giving websites whenever they visit. Now we all kind of get to opt in or opt out of that. And so, yeah, I wonder if it would be a situation like that, or if they wouldn't even decide to escalate it at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Germany, I gave you a shout out earlier in the episode. You're on deck.
So, Pam, are there solutions for people who are going to be dealing with this?
So, not right now, really, but I would say give it time and someone will create a tool that's a good workaround for this, because that's really what the internet excels at, especially if there are a number of people that are trying to troubleshoot the same thing. I think especially since banned books are on the forefront of people's minds, and people are really at a point right now, especially with licensing agreements the way they are on streamers, for example, where they want to build their libraries of entertainment in a way that they know they get to keep those files for good, for example. So yeah, I think that we'll definitely see some workarounds if they're not out there already. There might even be some that exists. I wouldn't have the knowledge for that personally, but I will say that if you are looking to just like start your own digital library for ebook files of any sorts onto your own computers, Calibre, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's spelled Calibre, is an open source free software that allows you to do that. You can just house all those files in that software. They're really good about keeping it updated. They make it really easy to export files into different formats. So you don't have to be beholden to whatever like the Amazon format is. If you have Amazon formatted files onto your on your computer already, you can transfer them over to EPUB, to Mobi, etc. So yeah, that's a good tool to start like organizing all of your written files.
We've spoken about digital goods being pulled from us even after we have purchased them, normally through the lens of TV shows and movies, but not books. And this is an unfortunate reminder that this can happen with books as well. We might think that we own these, but we really don't. And I hate to say the solution is to buy physical books, because as much as I love buying physical books, like I said at the top of this, I really do love having ebooks sometimes, whether it's because I'm traveling or because I just don't want to hold a heavy book. So I get why people do it. But I don't know, in this day and age, it feels like you got to have physical copies of all your favorites.
Mm-hmm.
To be safe.
And also we were talking when we were planning this discussion about how, you know, we've all kind of had technology in the past where like at some point or another, we've wanted to get files off those devices. And, you know, we've had to work around that for sure. I know, Andrew, you have a great example for this, which I think we all struggled with back in the day.
Yeah. So back in the day, I used to use this app called Snooty, which is iTunes spelled backwards, to rip music from the iPod to my Mac. And the reason I personally was doing this was because I remember I had transferred lots of music onto my iPod, but then something happened with my Mac where the hard drive went bad and I didn't have a backup or something like that. So then I used Snooty to get all of my music back onto my Mac, and then I could resync my Mac with my iPod, because Apple wouldn't let you do that. Like, for whatever reason, if you had music on your phone and it wasn't on your Mac, you couldn't just bring it to your Mac. So you needed an app like Snooty. Did y'all ever use something like this or any other hacks with your iPod?
Yeah, I remember it would take forever because I had so much music on my iPod, like just to load the files. But I don't know if I used Snooty, you said it was called?
Snooty, iTunes backwards.
Oh, that's cute.
Senuti.
Or something else. Yeah, I know that there were a couple of different ones out there.
All right. Well, thanks for updating us on that, Pam. And we're going to take one more break. And then we're going to talk about tipping and what sometimes happens to the tips you're leaving the service workers, or at least you think you're leaving for the service workers. So we'll be right back. One of my friends, Tyler, who listens to the show, hi, Tyler, he sent me this TikTok because he knows I'm a big fan of Subway, the sandwich shop. Do you two eat at Subway much?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me neither. And I just love a turkey sandwich from Subway. It's cheap-ish with a coupon. I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. I got a couple close to me, and I don't know, it just hits the spot. But this TikTok went viral last week because this person shot this video and revealed that she was trying to tip her Subway sandwich artist, and the employee at Subway actually said, please don't tip through the credit card machine because the tip just goes straight to corporate.
I am sick of this greedy corporate America that we live in. I went to Subway today, and the fellow that was making my sandwich, you know, he was super sweet, but I got to the checkout, and you know that screen where it comes up and it asks you if you want to leave a tip. Well, I personally worked in the service industry, so I always leave a tip. I went and filled it out to be like 20%. He stops me. He's like, hold on, don't leave me a tip. You're good. I was like, what? You don't want a tip? He told me they don't even get it. It goes straight to corporate. Did I hear that right? This person that you're paying minimum wage to, you're going to go ahead and just take their tip as well? That is so trashy and so ghetto to me. I've been a loyal customer for several years, so to me, that is such a turnoff that I will probably never return. Do better, Subway, or you're about to get canceled. For this, honestly, you should be canceled. So gross. Your days are numbered. Your days are numbered.
And people were like, oh shit, that's really fucked up. You know, because when we fill out that tip prompt, we assume, we hope at least, it's going to go to the actual employees who are working there and probably aren't being paid well. So one little note on this video. Some people are correcting her, and I think they're right. Subway is a franchise, so it's probably the people who own these franchises who are messing with the tipping system at least some Subway locations and not dispersing these tips to the actual hourly workers there. So, even if it's not Subway corporate, it's shitty, and it's good for consumers to know that this type of crap is actually happening. And not just at Subway, of course, because looking at the comments on the TikTok, a user named Unicorn said, Crumble does this too. Another user named Caitlin said, I tell every customer at my job to bypass the tip question because my company uses tips to pay our hourly wages. Miranda said, at the restaurant I work at, if you tip on online to-go orders, we don't get that money either. It goes to the owners. So there's evidence that this is happening at other businesses. Obviously, some of these employees in the comments didn't want to reveal where they work. How about you two? So you don't eat a Subway. That's okay. Do you ever tip on those credit card prompts? And do you have like certain thresholds? Like, do you tip at specific types of places?
I'll basically tip anywhere that and I think you have this note here, Andrew. I'll still tip anywhere that I would have tipped before the tip screens became a thing. Any kind of like service, like customer facing, whether it's like food prep or like being in an Uber, getting dropped off somewhere, like these are things that I will tip for.
I will try to tip in cash if I can. Usually if I'm going out to get anything, it's going to be coffee, and so I try and go to the smaller, like mom and pop shops if I'm closer to one versus the larger chains. But even at like Phil's, for example, because they use Square, I'll try and tip cash. So I try and always have like a few dollar bills in my purse, and that way it's just easy to drop something in the tip jar. And
that normally is going to the actual workers, and I think a lot of people were saying that in the TikTok comments as well. Like you said, Laura, my general rule is if I wasn't tipping before all these prompts became prominent, I'm still not tipping there. I remember also we talked about these prompts a while ago, and I can't remember if I saw this on Reddit or I heard this from somebody I know who works a job where these tip prompts come up. But somebody had said that the workers at a lot of these places hate that the tip prompts are coming up too, because it makes them uncomfortable to be asking for a tip if they feel like it's the type of service that shouldn't be asking for a tip. The example I've given multiple times is I go to my local frozen yogurt place, and it's a chain frozen yogurt place, and there's a tip box on the credit card screen. And I'm like, I made my froyo, like, why am I tipping on that?
Yeah, if it's self-service, I find it weird.
So hard to justify
on there. Yeah.
And this is when tipping culture is already nuts in this country. And it's not because of the service workers, it's because of all this corporate greed. I mean, you go overseas, you do not see tipping as prominently as you do in this country. I mean, in this country, you've basically been conditioned to ask yourself, with any business, should I be tipping this person? Like, if I have somebody come over to the house, I start panicking in my head. Maybe it's the cable company or whoever else. I start thinking to myself, should I be tipping? Because I'm sure somebody else is tipping them. Are they going to think I'm an asshole because I'm not tipping? Yeah, anything. I feel conditioned that way now, don't you?
No.
Oh, I got to grow up there.
Stuff. But I also think that like with something like frozen yogurt, anytime it's like food involved, even if it's self-serve, I also just, and maybe this is because, I have worked in food and beverage as a result of my coffee past, but it's like the tip jar has always been there. It's just, it was easier to ignore when it was a physical tip jar, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why it makes people uncomfortable. But on the opposite side of things, it's like, you don't want to be in a situation where somebody is going to yell at you for like meddling at all with their transaction, because it is your transaction still, I can clear it, but you don't know what button I'm pushing. I could be pushing like tip me $10 and you won't even notice until you get your statement or whatever. You know what I mean? So like, it's tough. Like it's better. It's like, you can't win if you try and exit out for people, and you can't win if you flip the screen. So it's kind of awkward for everybody involved, but I just like, I noticed that a lot of people do this too. Maybe like, it's just good to like I don't know, be like more aware of your like the people that are helping you. Cause I think like nobody wants to make eye contact whenever the tip screen comes up.
Yeah.
But like I just look away. Like, you know, like when
Yeah.
I was working coffee, it would be like, okay, like I'm just gonna like let you finish your transaction and I'm gonna look away, you know?
Mhm.
Or like I'll turn around and do something else. And a lot of people will do that. They're not just gonna like sit there and stare you down.
I'm
But
always
like we
afraid
don't want
that
to look at them either. So
I'm always afraid that on their screen or on their receipt that they're seeing, it'll tell them how much the person tipped or whether they did or not.
won't.
So then I'm like, oh God, they're gonna see that I'm an asshole.
and you can exit out, like if it really makes you feel that bad, you can exit out of that screen before you flip it around back for them too. Just like tap anywhere else
Yeah.
and it
yeah.
disappears. But yeah,
That's
it's awkward
true.
for everybody, you know?
Yeah. I will say something that I've heard a lot, and it's usually like at Starbucks, is baristas saying, like, they'll flip it around and they'll say, and that just has a quick question for you right there.
Yeah, I hate when they say that.
And I'm like, and I mean, I always tip because I'm like, you prepared a drink for me. Okay,
Yeah.
sure. I will admit, like, I would tip occasionally at Starbucks if I had cash to throw in the tip jar, but like, I didn't think as much about it because I knew that Starbucks employees weren't making below minimum wage like a lot of food service people do.
Mm-hmm. But another place I've seen the tipping prompts, and this one is probably worse than the Froyo places. In stadiums now, there are these cool self-service kiosks where you walk into this little area, and when you walk in through this little gate, you scan your credit card or your Apple Pay, and then a camera is watching you and watching what you grab, and then you just walk out. It's super convenient. There's no register. It's high tech. I like it. But there's tipping prompts on these self-serve kiosk registers, and I'm like, what the
For
fuck?
the robots?
Yeah, not even for the robot, for you. You're doing all the work. You're right for the
Right,
camera.
so
you're tipping the camera.
robots.
Yeah. You're tipping the AI. Good job, AI. You saw me take this beer that you're charging me $15 for. I cannot believe they're pulling crap like that. But of course, some people do it. I don't know if it's tourists, foreigners who are like,
Yeah.
you know, they know
think-
tipping culture is crazy here, so let's just tip
I think the
nonstop.
idea
Why not?
for that, it like, listen, and this is also just me like playing devil's advocate a little bit. I'm not saying that you should tip in that situation, but I do think that like the idea is, well, like it's all going into the tip pool and then being dispersed evenly amongst like the food and beverage employees. So let's supplement, like it'll help supplement if people like don't actually tip real humans. You know what I mean?
At other
Yeah.
kiosks, though, like they're not even working in this little area that you're.
I know that, but it's all
being a
like going to the
customer.
food and beverage tip pool. And then it's
Fair
being
enough.
dispersed evenly. Cause it's like, you know, like when I was working coffee, it was always like they would gather up the tips for the week and then everybody would get paid out from the tip pool evenly based on like the number of hours you worked and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And see,
it wasn't by shift, which I
Yeah.
think is actually like it honestly, it was better. Honestly, like I made some really good money doing coffee. Craft coffee specifically. People are really, I appreciate that people are very generous with the tips and stuff like that. But sometimes I would like walk away with like $500 extra, and I was only working
Wow.
part-time, you know, on like a good week.
Yeah.
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 And it's
so, but then
important.
sometimes it's not that much. Sometimes it's like only $100. So
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like, Pam, if at these stadiums with any of these self-service kiosks that had the tip prompt on them, if they came with an acknowledgement that, hey, this is to collect tips for the members of our staff who made your food or delivered, you know, an exceptional experience for you today, then I would be a lot more apt to like throw a buck or two when I went to grab a beer out of the freezer. You know, it's just, I think it feels slimy because it's not immediately clear where these tips are going. And
well,
there are
and that's the whole
obvious,
thing.
real documented cases of them not going to workers.
and maybe they aren't, you know, like
Yeah.
I can't speak for like a larger conglomerate because I've never worked in like a tipping environment that like is tied to like a corporate franchise, for example. So
Yeah.
yeah, they could be doing slimy shit with the tips. Like, who knows?
Basically, the lesson here is whether you're at Subway or a frozen yogurt place or wherever else, and you see the tipping prop come up, I see it at Great Clips too, where I go and get my hair cut.
Mm-hmm.
You should ask the employee who you're paying, does this tip go to you? And see what they say. If it doesn't go to them, hand them cash instead, or bring cash next time. Just keep it in mind for the future. If it's going to corporate, don't tip. And they're probably glad to see that you aren't tipping because it is just going to corporate or their bosses. So it's just a good question to ask. And I think the employees will be happy to hear you ask that question.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like, also too, I think sometimes people feel better about like just handing the tip money directly to that person. Like, if you know you're going to get a haircut or you're going to go get a tattoo, for example, like tattoo, it's like pretty common knowledge that you should tip your artist in cash. So you should bring cash to give them, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of those places also will only take cash for the tattoos anyway, but that's besides the point. Haircut, manicure, pedicure, stuff like that. Just, and it's tough. I know it's tough because also like a lot of this, like the major cities too are like moving away from cash. Like a lot of, I know this bothers me to no end because I feel like it's a little bit elitist to say like we're cashless now. But I think that that's part of the problem too, is that you're taking away someone's ability to like directly compensate somebody that's doing a service for them. If you're saying like, this is a cash free zone.
Yeah. You know what I do? Cause I rarely have cash on me. I have taken to asking people if they have Venmo or Zelle and being like, can I just Venmo your tip? Like I've done,
I love that.
Yeah. Like I did it for, me and my mom went to Nashville last year and stayed in a hotel for a couple of days, and you had to park your car with a valet. There was like nowhere good for you to park. So they would like take your car off site to a different garage. But I just tipped the valet over Zelle the day that we left, and it worked out really well. I've done that for technicians at nail salons before. Like, I'll do it for like, I'll do it for food delivery as well. So,
and I have noticed to that point, like more and more when I go to salons, they do have like a Venmo, like the Venmo code already. So I think it's becoming more common, to your point, but that's a good tip.
Venmo's so easy. And I think even like, I know not all of our listeners use Apple devices, but Apple's made it easier to do peer-to-peer payments. You might be able to just like bump phones these days and it can send cash that way. I don't know. You can definitely do it through iMessage. So there are definitely some options. Me too, Laura, in terms of carrying cash. I do not carry cash anymore. I have some cash here at home if I need it from time to time, but I always forget to bring it out with me. And I'm always using Apple Pay or my credit card. So I have a small wallet that I put on the back of my iPhone. I don't have room for cash.
You have deep pockets because you're a man.
That's damn right. And I'm rich. I have so much cash in my deep pockets.
But like literal deep pockets where you could put cash.
Right. But I still don't carry cash. I hate carrying cash. It's dirty. I don't need it. But maybe I got to get better at that. I mentioned I'm a fan of Subway. I honestly go to Subway about once a week. I love a turkey sandwich, American cheese, lettuce, spinach, add mayo, multigrain bread, please. Footlong, please. But I never go to Subway without a coupon. And they always have a $6.99 footlong coupon. It's always a variation of FL6.99, the promo code, or $6.99 FL or footlong $6.99, and it takes off $4 to $5. It brings the price to like $8.99 or $9.99 after I add my avocado. So just a little tip for all the Subway girlies out there.
Man, I'm gonna date myself heavily here, but I remember when Subway was advertising the $5 footlong specifically because they had employees out at Obama's inauguration doing like chants and cheers on the National Mall about the $5 footlong.
I think the jingle was like $5 $5,
Yep.
$5 foot long.
That was it.
Just unlocked a core memory.
Okay, the main reason I love Subway is you can order through the app. And then I just walk in and it's already done. I love Sprouts does a $5 or $6 sandwich.
Oh, that's good, actually. The $4 sandwich at mine, I think mine is like $4.99.
Okay. I think
if you don't get the cheese or avocado or anything like that. But even then.
See, they don't ring up the extra
avocado.
I do, but they don't ring it up. They don't put it into the register. So I'm always getting these add-ons for
I know
it's great. But the thing is, you gotta walk in, you gotta fill out the piece of paper, then you gotta wait for the deli to do it.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Yeah. I think I stopped going to Subway when the $5 footlong went away.
Yeah.
But maybe the trick is I need to use the app.
Yeah, you should. Well, and speaking of the apps, all the fast food places are directing us to their apps these days. Like I don't go to McDonald's myself, but I see everybody saying like McDonald's prices are crazy in restaurant, but if you use the app, that's where all the deals are. So I did start poking around on the app to see what people are talking about. And yeah, it's like you can get free fries with a minimum purchase of $2 or a $3 breakfast sandwich, stuff like that. The deals are good. But then you're handing over all your data to McDonald's and they're like, you want us to track, can we track you 24/7 and stuff like that. So if you don't mind handing over your data to McDonald's in exchange for cheap food, it's a good option.
Yeah. I mean, so many of us have already handed over our data to so many entities at this point. What's one more?
Yeah.
If you're a McDonald's girly.
Speaking of handing over data, I got this flyer in the mail from Google. If they can track your internet usage on your devices, they'll start sending me gift cards. So I signed up for this. You have to install a VPN profile on your phone and like grant this like special security certificate on your phone as well. So they're now seeing every bit of data that runs through my phone.
Gift cards that you're getting.
I got a $20 one just for signing up, and I can do like REI, Best Buy, Amazon. I can pick all these different retailers. But the more data I hand over to them, we'll see how much I actually generate. They said you can generate up to $500 in gift cards a year. So yeah, they could see me using OnlyFans and Twitter and shit. I don't fucking care. Enjoy. I'll take a $500 REI gift card.
I don't know. That, you know what that kind of sounds like to me? It kind of sounds like to me the claims of like the DOGE is going to send all of us a $5,000 stimmy with the savings they find. Like Google is also in Trump's pocket.
You don't think I should trust Google's device usage study?
So here's the thing. At the end of the day, they have everything already. So like whatever, get your bag. But I'm just saying, like, you're selling your data to Elon Musk.
Mm.
If I'm going to make money off of this, I'm doing it. I can install a VPN and Google has every bit of data running through my phone and I get free money. Okay, sounds great to me. Maybe I can turn it into Subway gift cards. Let's see.
Bring it full circle.
And if I get Pat to sign up, because he's also in this household, I get another $20. This is nothing but upside for me, in my opinion.
Andrew's going to start running a Ponzi scheme where he recruits people to sign up to let Google steal their data.
And I get to look at your data as well. Anyway, I guess let's leave this here. But just to remind everybody, ask the service workers if the tips are going to them and just be more mindful of it. And don't assume that the tips are going to the people you're actually interacting with at these businesses. So, pals, we are not Subway or some other media conglomerate, big corporation. We're just Pam, Andrew, and Laura. So we need your support to help us keep this show growing. How can they help us out, Pam?
Well, first of all, you can become our favorite pal over at patreon.com/millennial. And once you're supporting us over there, you'll be able to listen to our weekly gossip sessions known as After Dark, which we also refer to as our podcasting safe space. And you can get all of that extra content in your favorite podcast app as well. So we make it really easy for you all to listen to the bonus content.
And coming up this week in After Dark, we're going to be talking about neighbors and community events. I recently had an experience where someone who is in the, let's call it the death industry, wants to build something in my community that a number of members of my community are up in arms about. And I attended a community meeting a couple of weeks ago that was honestly hilarious. So I'm going to recount that story, but we're also going to talk about some other examples of community and neighbor drama with HOAs, and all of that other fun, either apartment, condo, neighborhood, living, style stuff. So definitely tune in for that because it should be a hoot. Bring your popcorn.
It is fun because I love complaining about Karens. I love being a Karen about Karens. By becoming a patron, you'll also be able to hang out with us on Zoom every month. You'll get ad-free episodes every week. You'll be able to hear old episodes of Smart Mouths. You can listen to recordings of us calling each other every month and lots more. So please do check it out. Patreon.com/millennial. Patreon does offer 7-day free trials and annual subscription discounts. If you're an Apple Podcast user, you can just get After Dark and ad-free episodes by tapping into the show and signing up for Mega Millennial. Time for some recommendations. What do you have for us, Pam?
I wanted to recommend donating your mostly unused pet food and treats to your local humane society. So if you have like picky pets and you bought them food and maybe they didn't like it, you don't know what to do with it, or if you have like lost a pet and you still have a lot of that stuff lying around, instead of throwing it away, and if you don't have anybody to give it to, the Humane Society near you will probably take it, and you'll be doing something nice because they will either give it to the dogs that are there looking to be adopted, or they'll put it in the pet pantry, the pet food pantry, which I didn't know that my community does this, and I'm sure most of them do. If you do have a pet and like maybe you can't afford to feed them, a lot of these humane societies also have pet food pantries that you can go take advantage of. If you're falling on difficult times, you want to make sure your furry friend can still eat. So yeah, just wanted to put that on your all's radar.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I would like to recommend the Screens app. This is for iOS. There's probably an Android equivalent as well. But this app lets you control your Mac from your phone, your iPad, or even your Vision Pro if you happen to have one of those. The reason I'm recommending this is because there are times where I need to export a large file on my computer, but I don't want to sit around waiting for it to finish exporting. I want to, let's say, go to the gym or go pick up a $8 footlong at Subway. So I just started exporting, and then I leave the house. And once it's done exporting, I can then upload it to wherever I need to upload it from my phone. I can fully control my Mac from my phone. And it's just so handy. And I'm sure there's some other great use cases for our listeners. If you sometimes don't want to be in front of your computer, but you want to do a small task remotely. But this app also works really well on the phone. It's very easy to operate your Mac. It even has a feature where you just press one button and it'll type in your Mac password. So you don't have to manually sit there and type in your password every time you log into your Mac from your phone. It is a subscription. I bought the lifetime subscription because I did the one-time lifetime purchase because I just hate paying for these things month to month. And I'm definitely getting my money's worth. So check it out if you feel like you might have a use case for this.
Awesome. And I was kind of inspired, Pam, by your recommendation. And I did this recently. So I want to recommend doing a spring clothes audit. It's good usually once at least every couple of years to go through your closet and find the clothes that you're not wearing as much anymore, and anything that's still in good shape, gently used. You can donate that to your local Goodwill or other donation center if you have one. I just did this yesterday as I was doing laundry. I was methodically, as I was washing stuff and getting it out of the dryer and folding it, I would look at something and be like, I have not worn this in over 12 months. I don't think I will wear it again. So I'm taking it to Goodwill. And I ended up with like a garbage bag full of clothes that I'm not using anymore that can actually go to someone who needs them. So good time of year to be doing it. We're coming out of the winter months here in the US. So if maybe you have some older winter clothes you want to part ways with, I think now's a good time for it. So people can pick some up before the next winter season.
I need to do this so bad. My closet's getting tight for sure.
Honestly.
I did this over the weekend because my drawers were getting tight. I couldn't find shirts anymore because I had too many of them. And I also love this recommendation because once you clear out your closet, you can then go to shop.millennialshow.com to pick up official millennial swag and fill up that recently vacated space. Tonight, I'm actually sporting our canceling since 2015 t-shirt with our blue hash pal friend on it, and it's actually got the Millennial logo on the back as well. I actually love walking around with this shirt and reminding people that we millennials have the power to cancel, and we will if you wrong us. So be careful out there, people. Shop.millennialshow.com is where you can pick up this and other millennial merch.
You can follow the show in your favorite podcast app or YouTube, and please be sure to leave us a review.
You can also leave comments wherever you follow us, or you can email millennialshow@gmail.com. Millennialshow.com is where you'll find links to our various social media platforms and also notes on what we've discussed today.
After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
And you don't have to leave a tip at the door. Bye-bye.